Hey, it's me, MLB. Here's part one of the prequel to Cute Little Love Letters. This is a 6-part mini-series, and it's a side story covering how Yin's mum and dad met in the woods, well before Yin was born. And this one is titled The Woods. He ran blindly, his heart pounding in his chest. Tree limbs and bracken were smacking him in the face, making his skin sting, but he didn't feel it. The adrenaline was so high. He wasn't used to this feeling. His legs felt wobbly and oh so long. His arms felt like they were 3 meters long. It was weird. It didn't feel good at all. Stumbling over a proud tree root, he tripped and fell, smacking his right knee heavily into the ground. With a loud thud and a cry of pain, he hit the dirt and rolled. Having run for so long, finally being forced to stop felt good, and so he lay there panting rapidly, holding his right knee and staring up at the foliage overhead, trying to work out what to do next. Ragged, pained breaths stole a little of his life force, and he rolled on his side and squeezed his palm around his right knee. He looked down. There was blood everywhere. He removed his hand from his knee as he sat up and turned his palm to face him. His palm was covered in blood, and then he looked down his front. Blood, smatters and smears were present all over his clothes, his arms, legs, everywhere. It was horrific. At seeing the blood, his face scrunched up and tears welled in his eyes. In his ears, all he could hear were the pitiful cries of the Tassie Faerie that he attacked over and over again. Were they the Tassie's cries, or his? He wasn't sure. It was such a horrifying memory. Intermingled with all of that, also the haunting sounds of the fox fairy witch cackling away in the background, goading him to continue. "You can't stop now," they taunted. "Once you start, you can't stop, or horrible things will happen to you and your family. You must complete this to avoid being cursed. Do you want courage or not? Courage or curse?" they cackled. Your dad, the young Fae heir, early 20s at most, pulled his legs up to his chest and hugged them tight, sobbing softly into his knees. The witch had cursed him in the end. She had tricked him, gave him the ability to hold human form, and due to the stress of the situation, he hadn't been able to turn back into a fairy. He feared that he would be stuck as what he felt a hideous giant for the rest of his life. "Who would want to be human?" he cried internally. "I feel heavy. I feel weak. I can't go back to my home like this. What do I do?" he cried internally with despair. After sitting and catching his breath for a little longer, he figured that he should keep moving. Lest they know what I've done and come for me. Would my own blood take my life? It's what must be done, though. I have done wrong, and I know that, he thought sullenly as he got to his feet and listened carefully into the sounds around him. He knew that his family, or royal guards, should they come for him, would come in fairy form and would be silent, but he hoped that he would be able to sense their presence nearby before they spotted him. But he didn't feel anything as he waited for a second. Best I find water and wash, he thought as he started walking again, trying to make sense of these long limbs that plagued him. The path was getting more and more narrow and rocky, and your mum adjusted the straps over her shoulders, crouching slightly to get more strength behind her as she pulled her single-axle wagon behind her. She had just finished up at the local markets in town and had sold quite a number of items, enough to give her the money for food and supplies for the next 3 months. "Thank you for always providing," she said in her mind, pushing as much positive energy out into the atmosphere as she could, despite struggling to pull her small caravan. Her legs slipped and she took a small tumble, but regained quickly and kept going, pulling the wagon as best she could. Did I take the wrong road? She wondered, as she stopped for a second and looked up. The path ahead was almost unrecognizable. It was overgrown with many leaves and grasses, and the way was stony and sharp. I believe they said to take this road, as it was a shortcut to the next village, she thought, as she redoubled her efforts and kept going. Up and over a rise she pulled, and as she got deeper into the forest, the path appeared to smooth out a little, but it was no longer a track. She was merely walking around trees and pulling through small swamps, aimlessly wandering deeper and deeper into the forest. The sun was starting to set rapidly, and she thought it would be best to rest for the night and set up while she still could. Things will brighten in the morning, she thought as she stopped near a tree and loosened the caravan straps from her shoulders and then gently lowered the wooden bars from her shoulders to the ground. Thank you, ever faithful, she said to her wooden wagon as she walked to the side of it and patted the sturdy yet unusually lightweight oak. Your mum, in her early 20s, had been travelling on her own since she was 16. She was a very independent woman, but as she wiped her brow of the dirt and sweat and got into the back of her wagon to make herself a cup of tea, she wondered, would she ever meet someone special? Would she ever find herself a suitable companion in life? There were many men who she had met on her travels who had been taken by her beauty, but their aura just didn't fit what she was looking for. I need a confident yet gentle man, a man of nature who will understand my heart, she thought as she watched the small fire glow and heat under her billy teapot. That night a hideous storm rolled in. Your mum in her wagon only barely survived. Most of her things got soaked, and had she not been inside the sturdy oak caravan, she feared that she would have been rolled away with the rain and wind. Your father too struggled that night, huddled up in a shallow cutout of a giant tree. The cutout at its base wasn't big enough for your father in human form to fit fully inside, and he cursed his size yet again, sad and miserable that he couldn't turn back into a fairy yet. If I had been in fairy form, I could have flown in and stayed dry, he thought as he waded through that night, hungry and wet, miserable and depressed. The next morning, as the sun started to rise, the winds and rains died down and a brilliant sunshine came out to dry everything out, but the ground around your mother's caravan was so sodden she couldn't even leave the safety of inside. She attempted to hop out once, but her foot sank right up to her mid-calf in the sodden, swampy earth, and she had to struggle to pull herself back out again. It looks like I'll be here for a little longer, she sighed as she got her sopping wet items together and then climbed out the window of her caravan and hauled herself up onto the roof. Using some spare rope that she had, she made herself a clothesline from the tree branches above to hang her clothes and sheets on, and then got busy cleaning up all the other muck and debris that had ended up inside her caravan during the storm. Thankfully, the sunshine that day was wonderful, and she praised Mother Nature and thanked her for providing what she needed. Although I cannot leave my caravan, at least I have supplies for the next week here and can dry my clothes, she thought as she pulled some dried foods from her food locker and ate them tenderly. Another day or two and I'll be able to pull myself out of here, she thought. The next day was intense for your dad. The ground everywhere was sodden and some places were so wet he sank right into the ground up to his thighs. If I were in fairy form, this wouldn't be an issue, he grumbled yet again, using his hands to hold onto a vine and pull himself free. Your dad was a fairly fit young man. He had trained with the Royal Guards and his physique showed his dedication. His arm muscles bulged as he pulled himself free, hand over hand, climbing up the vine until he was free of the mud. Then he used that vine to swing himself to a more sturdy point on the ground. After moving on a little more, he stopped. I'm going to need some food, he thought as he looked around to find something to eat. Nearby there was a wild berry patch growing, so he made his way over and ate some of the berries, filling his stomach with some sustenance. After having had some food, he felt a little better and tried using his transformation skill. This time it worked, and he shrunk down to fairy size and flew up and around. Oh, this is good. This is very good, he thought as he flew in a loop and then headed off further into the bush. And there ends part 1. Part 2 will be up tomorrow. I'll see you all then.